Welcome to Seaview Circle, a podcast in which your hosts, that's us, Doug and Brady, will be recapping and reviewing our favorite TV shows and movies of the past, present, and possibly the future, all in service to our end goal of determining just how highbrow or lowbrow our viewing taste is.
My name is Brady, and I'm a sometime writer, sometime actor, and DJ, and purveyor of vintage oddities living in Los Angeles.
And my name's Doug. I am a real estate agent, former DJ and musician.
Current DJ too.
Yes, well, you know, that's how it goes. In LA, we do like 10 things.
Right,
and I'm
right.
also a purveyor of vintage goods, TV
What's the
shows.
last thing you sold?
I sold a lamp.
Ah, okay. What kind?
Kind of a mid-century modern piece that I picked up somewhere and rehabbed
We call it trash.
to cash.
To cash.
But that's another thing.
That's a whole other podcast.
But anyway, let's get on with today's episode, which
today's
is
episode.
Will the Circle Be Unbroken? It originally aired on January 24th, 1980, but you can watch it now on Plex TV.
Plex.tv is airing all 14 seasons of Knots Landing right now. So check it out. You can watch the entire first season and then join us for the recaps.
And the writer of this episode was David Jacobs, the director, David Mosinger, I think that's how you pronounce it. And the guest star is the famous actress, Julie Harris, as Lilimae Clements.
I'll read the IMDb synopsis. It is as follows. Lilimae Clements, Val's mother, turns up in Knots Landing to visit her daughter. Valine confronts her over being abandoned as a child as Lilimae pursued her music career. As ghosts from the past come back to haunt the mother and daughter, they begin to put the past to rest.
Ooh, it sounds like
it's gonna be juicy.
It's a juicy one for sure.
Okay, but before we get into
yeah.
that, we have a letter from the sack.
Another letter from the sack?
Yes, would you care to read this?
So this is from Instagram. It's a direct message from Steph.
Yeah, Steph slided into the DMs.
Okay, you guys often mention a love for retro style and TV shows, but I'm curious if you also watch modern TV as well. If so, what recent series have you enjoyed?
Oh, okay. Well, before we answer that, I wanted to say we would appreciate if you send us messages to also let us know where you're from. That would be great because sometimes we can't figure it out, and it's just nice to know where people are watching us from. So,
Yeah,
okay.
definitely.
So, Doug, what current shows have we recently enjoyed?
Oh, I mean, we watch a lot of modern television. In fact, even just last night, we finished watching the Mayfair Witches, which was on AMC. I don't know how great that was, but I did like it because it had...
Witches.
Well, witches, of course, but it was set in New Orleans, so I love New Orleans and love looking at the sets. And,
right, we do love New Orleans, and actually that was
location.
also the setting of another show that we recently watched, Your Honor, which I thought was really quite excellent. The acting in that is really good.
We just finished watching The Perfect Couple on Netflix.
We love some Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, loved watching
Hello.
Nicole Kidman.
Decameron, we really liked Decameron. That was on Netflix as well. That's a really quirky, fun cast.
Only Murders in the Building. We're watching that currently.
Yes, we are currently. It's another whole podcast. You know, that's the thing about that. I want to talk about that show for a second because you notice when they're recording their podcast, they're like just literally on the fly. Like they're walking down a hallway and they just whip out their phone and they're like, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah.
no organization.
Can you imagine piecing that together? The poor editor having to deal with all those different sources.
Well, it's just the same as
little
when you watch
unrealistic.
real estate television programs like $1 Million Listing, where they never do any paperwork. They just do the deal. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's pretty amazing how you could put that deal together on the phone in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
It's a
seriously,
TV
when
show.
we put together our podcast here for you guys, there is a lot of paperwork shuffling, right? There's notes, there's outlines, there's scene lists, and then, of course, I don't know how many pencils I've gone through in the last 3 or 4 weeks just writing notes.
So what other shows have we been watching?
Let's see. In the last few years, we really like Yellow Jackets. We're super excited. Season 3 is going to be coming up soon, we hope. Fingers crossed. Also Fallout, right, which also stars Ella Purnell from Yellow Jackets.
And Fargo.
I
don't know if we've watched all of them, but we've watched quite a few of them.
Yeah, for sure. The Bear, of course.
Yes, love The Bear.
Hacks. Oh, I love Hacks.
Hacks,
I'm so excited that that all won the Emmys. We watch a lot of Emmys.
And we even got to DJ there Emmy party, but that's another story.
That is correct, yes.
Yes, but we won't be bragging.
We also like The White Lotus. I was excited about that coming back too. The third season's going to be taking place in Thailand. And what else are we currently watching?
Well, we're watching, I think the title is something like Monsters, but the Menendez brothers. Yes. I don't know what the correct title is.
That is on Netflix, and that's pretty intense. The last episode we just watched was really powerful because it was just one shot from beginning to end, slow zoom in. It's crazy.
It's good. And I mean, we haven't finished it yet, so we're getting there. So that, and I know there's a few other in the queue. Yeah, what's the one I saw the poster for today? We want to see that.
Oh, Grotesquerie.
Grotesqueria looks interesting.
Well,
don't know if that's good or not.
I actually worked on that for one episode. So we're going to watch that one for sure.
Okay. Well, I have no idea what it's about. So I would like to.
I don't really either, and I worked on it.
I like the imagery, and it's perfect for like
and Niecy Nash stars.
Halloween time, it's the time of year for that.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you would like to send us a letter from the sack or be featured in Letters from the Sack, you may contact us via Instagram at seeviewcircle. That is SEE View Circle. You can also email us at seeviewcircle, all one word, at gmail.com. If you have a specific burning question about the series Knots Landing, maybe we will feature your topic in a future Untying the Knot segment.
Do you want to talk about the intro? I don't like necessarily seeing the intro.
Right, you don't want to
feel like it spoils me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I wrote on my notes, it's going to be dramatic, this one. Especially Julie Harris's perm.
Yes, that's the first thing I wrote too.
Yeah,
Lilimae's hair.
I was a little frightened.
And I wrote Lilimae's hair, the harpsichord, the drama. I mean, here's the thing. We have a screen caps in front of us, so we'll kind of go through. But yeah, that first scene, we see a woman sort of creeping around the Ewing house. We don't quite know who she is yet. However, it's very quickly revealed that it is Valine's mother because she has this intense flashback. And, this is something I kind of forgot about completely and was reminded of, or maybe I don't even remember really, was the fact that they come from Husky Corners.
That's right.
What?
Husky Corners. I didn't remember that.
I had to listen to that 3 times to make sure what I was hearing was correct.
To be quite honest, I couldn't catch the name, so I'm glad that you caught it because I was like, what did they say?
And I did look it up to see if Husky Corners was a real place. And the only references that I could see when I pulled it up on Google were Knots Landing. So it must be a fictional location in Tennessee. Now, the taxi cab driver... Should we talk about him for a moment?
We could talk about him. I don't know who he was, but I recognized him as like a character actor that I'm sure I've seen in many other programs.
You've seen him several times. He was prolific all the way up through that period and maybe a little bit afterwards. He was in Bewitched.
Okay. It's funny. I have a reference here to Bewitched in 2 seconds. And
how about this, though? More recently, we saw him as the gentleman giving Marcia Brady her driver's license test.
Oh, right, the driver's ed teacher.
Yes, that we then have seen in the B. Meister recut of that episode.
Okay,
right?
Yes, I remember.
Right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
If you guys don't know who B. Meister is, he does these like remixes of Brady Bunch episodes.
And they're filthy.
Are filthy and hilarious and super lowbrow. That's our lowbrow side.
Yeah, so
sure.
if you're a Brady Bunch fan, I think he's B. Meister 66.
No,
something
B.
like
Meister 22.
Oh, 22. I'm sorry. B. Meister 22.
B. Meister 22 on YouTube. You can also find him on Instagram at Twisted Brady Bunch, and we love his stuff. Anyway, yeah, that episode was recently featured. The actor's name is Herb Vigran, and he plays like a real bored cab driver as he's waiting for somebody to answer the door at the Ewing's house. And Lilimae has looked into the windows and she says, yes, we've come a long way from Husky Corners because obviously this new house is a huge step up from what she remembers.
I was trying to find out who played the young Valine, but I wasn't able to find that out. And maybe I can go back in and watch again, or if anybody out there knows who that actress was.
I didn't really see it either in my research.
I looked it up in IMDb, and for some reason they didn't give her a credit.
So Lilimae is singing Wake Up Little Maggie.
Wake up, little Maggie.
Apparently is one of Valine's favorite memories from her childhood. But it's kind of creepy. right?
Oh, it's definitely creepy. It feels like I'm watching the beginning of a horror movie. For
Totally. And in a way, you are.
You are. In some kind of.
So, of course, Karen intercepts Lilimae. She sees what's going on because her car had actually been driving in the first shot when we see the
Yeah,
cab
she pulls
driver.
in the station wagon.
And so she comes over and she introduces herself. And I love this because Lilimae says, "Oh yes, I'm Valeen's mother," and she says, "Oh, I know it's hard to believe me being a mama to a grown lady like Valeen." She says, "Oh, I was just a baby when I had her," and then I love Karen. She's like, "Oh well, I'm sure you were."
Yeah, that was a really funny moment. I was also mentioning Bewitched because at that point when I saw Karen coming out to see what's going on, or she just arrives, I just kept thinking of Mrs. Kravitz on Bewitched a little bit. Not that she's to that level,
Right.
but there was that element where it's like, okay, she does need to know what's going on. She's not really a troublemaker.
No.
She just wants to know what's going on.
Not in this instance. I
No,
mean,
not here.
You see some lady looking through the windows of your neighbor who just moved in. You're going to want to see what's going on. So Karen tells Lilimae that Valeen is not home because she's volunteering with Ginger. Maybe that comes later. But
Yeah.
Karen says, "Oh, do you want to wait in my house until Valeen comes home?" And Lilimae is pleased as punch to do just that.
Right. And then we cut to the cab driver bringing the luggage over to the Fairgates house. And at this point, Lilimae opens up her purse and she's getting ready to pay.
Or not pay.
Or not pay. Another signal
Yes.
that, okay, we've got trouble here. She can't find her wallet. So
Conveniently.
So Karen offers to pay. And I think
you notice it's kind of like all through visual cues. Right?
Yes.
She kind of looks to Karen and Karen's like, "Oh, you expect me to pay for this. Okay."
and she said something, "Oh, it'll turn up later when I unpack."
Yeah, Sure, Lilimae.
We've all met people like
Yes.
this in our lives.
Exactly. They leave you with that big dinner bill.
And I guess, I would say that in this initial episode of seeing Lilimae, it's not how I remember her character later. I just was thinking to myself, I'm definitely getting negative vibrations.
I think that with more opportunity to know her, she has way more redeeming qualities. But certainly in this first episode, it is all about delivering this drama and showing where Valeen comes from. And we have so much to discuss in that respect. But yeah, so Karen gives her a $20 bill to pay for a cab fare that I think that is like $16.50. And then Lilimae has the cheek, the gumption, and the gall to say, Karen, come on now. You can give him a better tip.
Give a
than
better
that."
gratuity.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow, she is ballsy.
She is a piece of work.
So the next scene, we have country music playing in the background.
Yes.
Courtesy of Gerald Immel, I assume.
As they enter into the Fairgate house, which is kind of ironic because, I don't know, I don't really see the Fairgate kids listening to country music, but
yeah, I was a little perplexed.
It was convenient.
Very convenient.
So yeah, Karen takes her over to the couch and they sort of chit chat about where Val is. Karen says that she's been volunteering with Ginger at a daycare center once a week. And then that kind of...
Lilimae asks, "Oh, how's my grandchild?" Which is like one elephant in the room. And then I think Karen says, "Oh, Lucy doesn't live with them," or something to that effect.
She says, "Oh, well, you knew that." And then you can see on Lilimae's face that she probably didn't know that.
Yeah. So
in other words,
we're getting a better indication that they are estranged.
Right.
They're not really in contact.
Right. She doesn't know the details of this huge move over to California. Valeen neglected to tell her that the granddaughter was not there.
Then Karen offers Lilimae some coffee, and then Lilimae asks for a glass of wine instead, which was really cheeky.
And it's, of course, like 10 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's the morning. Yeah. And then Karen asks, "Oh, what's in here?" Which is the music case.
Yeah, she says, "Oh, I saw you eyeing that." And of course, Lilimae is so proud of this thing. It is her auto harp. She opens it up, she runs her fingers across it, and she breaks right into a rendition of her favorite song, Shady Grove.
Shady Grove. And this is the point where she mentions it's her constant companion.
Right.
So then we know that she is a musician. Backstory.
I will say in this moment already, when Julie Harris opens up that case and goes to the auto harp, the commitment on her face just sold me. You know, I know we'll talk about it later, I think, but I know that Julie Harris is a huge Broadway actress who has so many roles under her belt. And here she is in a guest starring role on a show, and she completely commits herself to this, dare I say, country bumpkin, you know, playing an auto harp, singing this song. I mean, I just believed her right away.
So we cut to Ginger driving Valine home. Ginger and Valine are having a conversation, and Ginger asks if Valine has any plans to bring Lucy to the cul-de-sac.
Right, and Valine says that if it were up to her, she would bring her right away, but Gary is the more cautious one in the relationship, so...
She said she's working on it.
She's working on it, and then Ginger says, and winning? And then Valine says something like, what do you think? And then she turns the tables on Ginger and asks her if she ever considered having a child with Kenny. And, you know, I'm assuming that obviously they've been working together in a daycare, so she probably sees how good Ginger is with children. And Ginger says something like, yeah, you know, I think about it all the time, but Kenny only thinks about it when she brings it up.
Right. You can see, well, we've already seen from the first few episodes that Kenny is a bit of a player. So most likely, I don't see any kids in the future.
Right, currently on the plate for him.
Yeah, I don't think that's a priority right
But
now.
Of course, Ginger says she's working on him.
She's working on him.
All right, so back over to the Fairgate house. And I believe Lilimae is still singing Shady Grove.
And then we see the kids, the Fairgate children.
So now she has a larger audience because Michael and Diana and Eric are all sitting there listening to Lilimae strum that auto harp.
And at first, when I saw the kids' expressions, I thought they looked a little perplexed, like, what the hell is this? But when she finishes, they seem to enjoy it. And obviously...
Karen, too.
Yeah, they give her compliments on her song and singing.
So then Karen's very perceptive. She realizes, oh, well, if Lilimae has surprised Valine doesn't know that she's coming, she thinks, well, maybe Valine's going to be upset that she wasn't able to prepare a dinner for her mother. Karen takes it upon herself to invite everybody over for dinner later that night.
So Valine and Ginger arrive at the house, and Michael...
What was the car? What was Ginger's car? Do you know?
I think that is the 280Z, isn't it? No. Oh, no. You know what that is?
You're so good at this.
I know what that is. Okay, because I had a car similar to that. So that is the Datsun B210 hatchback.
Okay. Didn't your brother have that or something?
I had it.
Oh, okay.
We all had it. But we didn't have the exact same. That's the hatchback.
I think it looks pretty stylish.
We had the sedan. Red. I mean, it was a car that we drove to. I drove it to the ground. And I mean, I don't even want to go into what happened with that Datsun B210. You could open up the door with a screwdriver and turn it on with a screwdriver. That was like it's an early 70s Datsun, which became Nissan for all you youngsters out there.
So Michael Fairgate is super excited to see Ginger arriving home across the street with Valine because he knows there's this big surprise waiting for her at the Fairgate house. So he drags the girls over to the Fairgate house, and inside there's a shot of Karen and Lilimae, and you can see on Lilimae's face that she is very trepidatious about this impending visit, right?
Yes.
She doesn't know how it's going to go. And how does it go, Doug?
Well, it doesn't seem to go very well.
The look on Valine's face when she walks in, it's super smiley and happy because she thinks there's a surprise for her. And as soon as she sees her mother, it's
drops. Just darkness.
Now, she asks right away, what are you doing here, Mama? And Lilimae says, well, I came to see you, sweet pea, or something like that.
Sweet pea.
Sweet pea. And then they hug, and you can just see Valine's like, not into it.
So it's dinner time now at the Fairgates.
Dinner time at the Fairgates. And I love this little moment of reality again, because now the dining room table is just stuffed with people, basically. And Michael, being the youngest, he's sitting there in some, additional chair that is unlike all the rest. And that just felt very realistic to me, because as the baby in the family, I was always the person in the other chair that was crammed in.
Or sometimes they just put like a little table next to the other table, the kids' table.
Right, which, come on, the kids' table is always way more fun. Or at least it was, I guess, as a child. But the other thing I thought was, if you notice the chairs, the actual chairs for the dining room, it was that cane back chair, which I absolutely remember my family having those.
Well, I see a lot of those cane back chairs on the street when people are throwing out the furniture all over here in South LA. They just love throwing those out.
Right away, we can tell that Lilimae Lilimae is the belle of the ball here at the dinner table.
Yeah, she's
keeping
totally
all
holding
the
court.
attention on her and trying to impress everybody with stories of her music career. And they discussed right off the bat that she had once had an opportunity to tour with the Carter family.
Right.
And it was interesting because little Diana mentions, when they talk about their big hit, which is also the title of this episode, Will the Circle Be
Unbroken?
Diana immediately says, oh yeah, the Dirt Band sings that.
Oh, she says.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
that's
catch
the,
that.
you know, the Nitty Gritty Dirt
The
Band.
Nitty Gritty Dirt Band
had actually recorded a version of that song in the early 70s, which apparently was a hit and a title of one of their albums. But it was originated or made famous by Mother Maybelle Carter and the Carter family. And they were a folk country band that lasted decades, really, because there were different generations. And in the second generation of that musical family, of course, was June Carter.
Oh, June Carter.
Yes,
Hey,
who later
sounds like the Kelly family.
Legendary.
But that's another story.
This legendary country family, which Lilimae is trying to attach herself to impress these strangers that she's meeting here for the first time. And right away, you can see on Val's face.
I was going to say, Valeen's look is like, she's going, what a liar.
She's like,
she is so disgusted.
She's over it immediately.
And then you know it's going to head towards explosion.
Right. But before that, Lilimae then turns over to Sid, who's, you know, eating everything she says up. And she's like, now, Sid, is that your real name? And then Sid's like, well, actually, no. Sid is my middle name, Sydney. My first name is William. And then Lilimae's like, oh, do you mind if I just call you William?
And she said, William suits you better.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I guess.
And then Valeen just can't take anymore. And she excuses herself into the kitchen.
Right.
We enter another flashback sequence. And so what we find is we see Valeen's parents fighting during her childhood. And we see Valeen crying. And then there's a doll that looks like Holly Hobby, which I guess is Little Maggie. I thought. Maybe the doll is called Little Maggie.
I think that's a good... the funny thing is, look what I'm looking at across the way right now. This
very
weird
similar.
Holly Hobby type doll. Now, I actually did do a little bit of research because I saw on IMDb that this was sort of an anachronism. It didn't quite work because the doll is actually a Heather Hobby doll.
Oh, okay.
Heather was a friend of Holly, apparently. And the Heather Hobby doll obviously came out in the early part of the 70s with the huge popularity of Little House on the Prairie, likely.
Right.
And it would not have been around during the time of Valeen's childhood because she would have been a child in, their 50s or something? I don't know. I can't do the math right now.
I went down a rabbit hole because there is a song, Little Maggie. So I didn't know if that was just something that in their family they created, the myth. That this is the Little Maggie doll. I don't know. Does anybody else have an answer out there? You can message us.
Let us know. We'd love to know if you know anything more about Little Maggie. But in the flashback, she remembers her parents fighting because Lilimae has some opportunity to sing out of town. And basically, she's putting Valeen, the care of Valeen, in the hands of her husband, Jeremiah. And she basically just storms out the door, leaving him there to deal with her. And she's crying. And I was going to ask you, do you remember? I mean, again, it's been a while since we watched the whole series. Was that his name all along, Jeremiah? I honestly don't remember.
Well,
he's not the father of Joshua, right? That was a stepfather.
I don't know.
Someone help us out, guys. Someone help us out.
But, you know, Valeen does say, she didn't even sing me Little Maggie.
Right. When we flash back to, or when we come back to the present, that's the first thing that she says. Did you notice that she's kind of cleaning her plate and cleaning up around the kitchen using a sponge that is bone dry?
No, I didn't notice that.
I thought that was really weird because she's just like pushing around nothing with this like completely dry sponge.
When then Karen enters and says, what are you doing? And she kind of comes out of the flashback.
Karen can see that Valeen is upset. She says, I guess your mom's visit was a surprise. She laughs a little bit. She says, you know, I have a mother too. And then Valeen says, not like mine. Take my word.
Right. And then I knew we're getting into it now, baby.
Also guest starring in that kitchen scene is that hideous, ugly, wooden, movable kitchen island again.
I'm sure it's going to make a recurring appearance.
Oh, you know it. We're back over to the Ewing house, and Gary and Val have to quickly scramble to get the house ready for a surprise guest, Valeen's mother, Lilimae.
I loved Gary's look there, the suede brown vest.
Ooh,
That was
he's
a good
sexy.
look.
I'm sorry, he's sexy.
Yeah, I like that look.
He's sexy.
He was definitely sexy.
I would not kick him out of bed.
No, I don't think anybody. I think that's why he was picked.
Yeah, I was actually curious about that. Do you think, as a young bloke, Ted Shackelford could feel that he was sort of the himbo of this show because he is dressed in such a way with his shirt always open and the tight pants, and
He must have. I mean, I don't know.
he doesn't seem like he's relishing in it so much. You know what I mean? It
Yeah, he
like
doesn't
he's
seem ego-driven
yeah,
about
not at
it,
all.
but he
But
definitely,
he definitely wears the clothes well.
yes. And whoever picked those clothes, well, they did a good job.
Yeah, we'll have to do a deep dive on the costume designer. So they go upstairs and they're making the bed, and Gary is wondering why Valine is having such a harsh reaction to Lilimae's arrival.
And you know, I thought this was strange because they are married, obviously. Have they never talked about Lilimae?
They
And
would
her
have
relationship?
To have. They would.
That's
had
where
to
I
have.
thought it was like Gary is
But-
very naive. Like,
but you have
what,
to
you're not going to
remember-
ask questions?
You have to remember that they just remarried after a long break, so maybe the context of what Valine's going through was never fully addressed recently. I don't know, but it's a good question.
I guess. I mean, I just think that if you were married, even at
You
some
would
point,
know.
you would know the backstory of your partner.
Absolutely.
This is my life, blah, 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 blah,
I love this part. There's one of the best lines in the episode, I think, when Gary asks, well, how do you want to handle this visit? And Valine says, find out what she wants, give it to her if we have it, say no if we don't, and then just send her on her way.
Yeah, that was good. That
It
was a good
really
one.
good. It was delivered very succinctly by Joan Van Ark as she is actually making up the bed. And I think the thing that we should pay attention to here is that Valine knows from experience that her mother is an opportunist. She knows that she's not just there to see their sweet little home and visit. She knows she's there for another reason, and she wants to find out what it is.
And we will get cues about that later on. We're back at the Farragate's house, and Diana is there. And so there's a bit of an altercation where Karen asks Diana if she could help do the dishes. And Diana says, well, I have homework to do. And then you can see on Karen's face, she's thinking about it. She doesn't want to necessarily create a situation between her and Diana that would be like what Valine has
that
with
might
Lilimae.
cause resentment down the line.
Yeah. So then she
backs down.
Yeah, she backs
says,
down
"Oh,
immediately.
Just go and do your homework. It's okay." And then Sid is like, "Well, that was a weird change in parenting, right?" And I thought this was really weird. There's a line she says something like, "I'm the college graduate around here."
Yeah, I thought that. Well, I noticed
have
that
the
too.
insights.
So I thought, oh, well, so Sid is not a college graduate.
But
Is that a big deal?
But isn't he though? Because I thought that later on. I mean, again, we're going way ahead. There's some flashbacks later on with other characters, and I could have sworn they all went to college together. But maybe Sid didn't. Maybe that's why he's an auto mechanic. I really don't remember. It's not really relevant to this particular storyline, but I just thought it was weird. So then Karen has a flashback of her own.
Yes,
her own mother.
with her own mother.
And she remembers kind of an argument that they were having where I guess Karen had been dating this other guy for a really long time. And then suddenly she's engaged to Sid, and the mother's wondering, what happened to this other guy. Do we find out about that other guy later? I could swear the name Teddy sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
think
it's
he
going to
comes
come
back.
up later.
Yeah.
Well, we can remember that.
Put a pin in that.
Put a pin in.
I love it. Moving into the next scene back at the Ewings, we see Gary yawning as Lilimae is again trying to hold court. She's talking about how she just doesn't appreciate modern country because it lacks tradition, and she always tries to keep the tradition alive in her music. So Lilimae starts singing that song again, Shady Grove. And Valine is like, I'm not into it. She goes upstairs, excuses herself. And
Gary seems to like it.
Oh,
though.
yeah. Gary's very amused by Lilimae for sure. And Lilimae says something like, oh, yeah, this Shady Grove is one of Valine's favorite songs as a child. She didn't have much choice in listening to it because she was always singing around the house. Right?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of my house, to be quite honest.
Oh.
Well, my mom was a singer, so she would always be singing. And
Right.
it would be really irritating. And then flash to, hey, that's just me. Right? I'm the same way. I'm always singing.
We are our parents.
We are our parents as much as we don't like it. So then we see Val in bed. She hears the music.
Right.
And then there's some creepy music playing too. It's getting to be almost like a horror movie again. And
Yes.
then we get the flashback. So it's Lilimae
Another scene in this house.
with young Valine, and there's a fire in the fireplace.
She's holding that doll again.
Yeah, she's holding little Maggie. And Lilimae says, you can't stay here no more. You've got to go to Grandma's because Lilimae's got to hit the road to do whatever music thing she's going to do.
Doesn't she mention something about Jeremiah's funeral?
Yeah, she said she can't afford Papa's funeral. So then we work out that Jeremiah, the husband, is now gone. You can see that Lilimae left her daughter with Grandma so she could pursue her dreams.
The memory is so jarring to Val that she immediately just gets out of bed and runs down the stairs, and she confronts her mother. She says, Mama, why are you really here? And what does Lilimae tell her? She
said something about the fact that she ran into Aunt June, Aunt June told her that they had moved to California.
Right. And who's Aunt June? Because later on in the series, of course, we meet Aunt Ginny.
Ginny, right.
But we've never met an Aunt June. Don't know. Is this another sister, or is this, we don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, she says, oh, I really just wanted to come and see your sweet home. And Valine asks her, well, how long are you planning to stay? And you can tell already that Lilimae realizes she's not welcome. So she says that she's only going to stay a day or two. And you can kind of see in Valine's face that she's like, okay, I can do a day or two. And then it's interesting because there's this look on Lilimae's face like she feels dejected, in that moment. And yet she can't help herself. She still has to reveal that she's in town to maybe meet at a music contact, right?
Yeah, and I think that doesn't make her seem more likable.
Right? She's not thinking of her daughter at all in this moment. She's just thinking of herself.
She's not changed her stripes.
No. All right, so later that night, Valine is sleeping, and she has another... Well, we don't know what it is. Is it a memory? Is it a dream?
It's a something.
It's definitely a nightmare.
It's a nightmare, dream, something, flashback, something. Right. One of the others.
So she's in the forest, and she's holding this baby, and she runs up to a cabin, and Lilimae opens the door, and you can see there's some sort of confrontation there, but Lilimae shoos her away.
And there's this creepy music, electronic music playing.
It's nothing like we've heard before.
That's why I was saying it could be Gerald Immel playing with the synclavier.
Yes.
Doing some experimentation.
So then Valine leaves. She starts running through the forest, and she's immediately confronted by these guys. And I don't know, one of them's wearing a cowboy hat. To me, it immediately makes me think of the Ewings, right?
Yeah,
right
that's what I was thinking.
So they steal the baby, and then they kind of push her on the floor. And I think, is that when she wakes up? And she's obviously shook. Gary consoles her, obviously very concerned. I don't know if he says something like, well, how are we going to get through this visit if you're having such problems with it already?
Valine says, as long as I know she's going, I can deal with it.
But of course, we cut to the guest bedroom.
Oh, and then we see little Maggie.
Right.
The return of little Maggie.
Right. Lilimae has little Maggie as a surprise. And she basically says something like, oh, once Valine settles into, me sticking around, I'll give this to her as a surprise. And so we know that Lilimae has no intention of leaving right away.
Right. And then she's tuning in the radio to the country station.
Yes.
Which I was surprised you could find one.
Oh, sure. I mean, probably.
Well, this was L.A. in the early 80s. I guess there was country music playing. But she does make mention about, I'll paint the walls baby blue. And then, maybe
I'll paint the walls baby blue.
She's not going anywhere if she can have her way.
I just loved, again, the commitment of Julie Harris's acting in this scene. Totally believable, totally going all in. The look on her face, is comedic in a way. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of certain friends of ours who are definitely comedic people. And also maybe almost like a Ruth Gordon vibe here, for sure.
Well, that probably leads us into the next segment.
You know what? It does!
Because
what a segue!
Speaking of pros, we have Julie Harris.
It's time to untie the knot.
Untying the knot.
In this segment, we take deep dives into a specific production aspect of this series, or perhaps provide a bio of a fan fave cast member. All right, Doug, take it away.
So in this Untying the Knot, we're talking about the amazing Julie Harris. It's interesting when you really read about her, you find out that she did so much. It's kind of overwhelming, to be quite honest. She's pretty much a huge Broadway actress. She was nominated for multiple Tony Awards throughout her career, and she received several, and I'll get into that. But just to give you a little insight to her background. So she was born in 1925 in Grosse Pointe, Michigan.
Ah, okay.
And actually, as a teenager, she started going to a variety of different acting schools. So she started quite young, and she went to an acting art school camp, even in Colorado. And at that point, one of the mentors there thought that she was so great, they pushed her to go to Yale Theater School.
Okay.
So at an early age, she did that for a while. She also went to the New York School of Drama, and she was one of the youngest members of the Actors Studio.
Okay.
So I didn't know any of this, really. She was also in some very big movies. One of the biggest movies she ever starred in was opposite James Dean
Wow.
as the love interest in
What?
East of Eden.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so now I feel like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, but I've never really like gone out of my way to watch that. So now, of course, we're going to have to add that
we should watch
to the
that.
list.
Yeah.
Now, you do remember after we watched that TV series, The Haunting of Hill House,
Right.
we found that there was a movie that it was based on, or
Right.
at least there's several movies that were out called The Haunting.
Right.
So we watched that. I think it's from 1965, and Julie Harris starred in that.
Right.
She looked great.
Yes,
It's in
yes.
black and white.
Right.
So, I mean, but she has just done so much. And one of the other roles that she took was Sally Bowles.
Oh, really?
In the Tony Award-winning play, I Am a Camera, which was
Oh.
by Christopher Isherwood.
Yes, yes.
And that was eventually turned into Cabaret.
Wow.
So I didn't know that.
I cannot imagine her in that role, but now I would love to see if we could look that up.
Just there's so much of Broadway acting that she did. Like from 1945, basically, was her first time on stage. And
Wow.
she pretty much kept working up until, well, the late 90s with theater. And then the last film role that I saw, or at least TV role, was like 2009.
Wow.
And she died in 2013.
Okay.
She's basically known as one of the best Tony Award winning actresses. And there was a period where she had more than anybody else, but then I think she was beaten out later on
Okay.
by, I forget who. I have to go back.
One of my favorite roles that I remember seeing her in was, of course, in that episode of Columbo,
Right.
which I don't have the title. Maybe you do there. But it's the one where she plays, I don't know if she's a secretary or the assistant to the winemaker.
Right.
And she has all these great scenes with Columbo. And yeah, I think that was probably maybe 5 or 6 years prior to Knots Landing, I'm guessing, based off
She
of the
even
time.
was in the Love Boat.
Well, of course.
So
she
with a
was.
lowbrow, but you know, these are not the.
What are some of her other TV credits if you have there?
Well, I'll go back to that in a second. But in 1993, she was nominated for the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards for a movie called The Dark Half, and she got Best Supporting Actress.
Wow.
And that is a George Romero directed film.
So, Doug, do you have any kind of backstory as to how Julie Harris got involved with Knots Landing?
Well, this was a very interesting tidbit that I found online. They said at age 15, Joan Van Ark was a student reporter who met and interviewed actress Julie Harris.
Oh.
And Julie Harris recommended that Joan Van Ark apply to the Yale School of Drama, which is where she went. So I'm sure that connection is how that came to be.
And you can see it. I mean, obviously, this is just the first episode that Julie Harris appears in Knots Landing, but there are several more. And you can see that relationship is very solid between, obviously, the characters, but also between the actresses.
And I think you can see in many photos, I have them in front of me, that they look like they were great friends.
Well, you'll have to do me a favor and send me some of those, and I'll add them to the YouTube version.
Totally.
I enjoyed that, Doug. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It could be way more in depth.
Well, of course. I mean, she's so prolific.
We could
and-
just do the whole podcast on her.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're back to the show. And in the next scene, we come back from commercial break, I think. And Valine is cooking up, or she's frying up fritters in the pan. And we soon find out that it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, Gary comes in like, what are you doing up so
He's
early?
in his PJs and he's yawning. And basically,
He's wearing that
Valine-
tight tank top again.
Well, yes.
Everything is always tight.
Valine claims that she cannot sleep, and this is what she always does when she cannot sleep. So her head is spinning. She's already figured out how she's going to deal with her mama for these next 2 days. She's going to keep her really busy and tire her out. She's going to have breakfast with Laura in the morning and with Lilimae. Then she's going to take her shopping in the afternoon.
And she's going to invite people over tonight for coffee and dessert.
Right. Because she also makes a point of saying that pretty much everybody in the cul-de-sac has already had them over, so now it's their turn to host, which I think is a pretty
That's fair enough.
Realistic aspect. I love the part at the end there when Gary says something like, "Oh, well, I think you're just frittering away."
Frittering away the night.
He's so pleased with his pun.
Yeah.
Right? And then Valley's just kind of like, okay, whatever.
So we are later in the morning.
Right.
In the kitchen.
Yes.
I guess it's like probably 9 o'clock.
The proper morning, right? And I guess Lilimae has slept in, so it is just Valine and Laura enjoying the fritters.
And
with
Laura
some
says
coffee.
they're delicious.
Oh, Laura is
she's
all
loving
about
them.
these fritters, right? So then Valine is kind of asking Laura what her relationship with her mother is, which was really strange because in the last episode, literally almost the last scene of the last episode, Laura had revealed to her that her mother had passed away when she was 12.
Yeah.
So when Laura has to say this again, I don't know if this was a mistake by the writers or if it was meant to show that maybe Valine was just so preoccupied that she had forgotten, because the way that Constance McCashin delivers the line, "Oh, well, my mother passed away when I was 12, could be read as though she thought that Valine knew this already. Later on, when Lilimae comes in and Valine introduces her to Laura, she introduces her as her best friend. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're such a best friend. You don't even remember that.
You didn't remember you already told her that?
Your best friend was raped, and then she completely opened up to you to tell you that the reason why she acts out is because her mother passed away when she was 12. Okay.
That was maybe a design flaw.
Yeah, there was something happened there. But anyway, so it's a very quick scene, really, with the Lilimae aspect, I guess. More importantly, we have a flashback with Laura, and she recalls back to, I guess, the funeral of her mother. And I have to say, it was really interesting in this flashback because to me, the way it was shot, it looked like one of those old vintage greeting cards, you know, from the 70s that had like the plastic front and like the gold leaf lettering, and like the edges would be all like blurred out and feathered like a vignette. I mean, it was so, I guess, meant to look more classic than the 70s.
Did we have any idea who played the young Laura?
I think she is listed in IMDb, but I didn't write it down, so I don't know. All right, so I guess Laura has gone home, and this is later on in the day, and Lilimae asks Valine, "Oh, so what are you going to make for your neighbors for the dessert?" And Valine stares at the fritters that are right in front
There's
of Lilimae.
a lot of them on the table.
There's a lot of fritters.
And they look really good.
And they look really good.
Especially right now.
Yeah. And basically Lilimae's like, oh no, you can't serve these because they're too country. They're too country for these city folk. You know, she says, you want to make a good impression on these people, and the fritters are not the way to do it. So then Valine's like, well, what do you suggest?
She says something like, trust mama, and she looks at the cookbook.
Right.
And then
this is Lilimae trying to be a motherly figure.
Yes.
And Valine kind of goes along for the ride, which kind of surprised me a little bit. Like, again, I think there's always a scene in every episode where I kind of question how solid and real this is, but it's kind of like a plot point that moves it forward. So we're just going to let it slide because Valine allows her to go through the cookbook and find something to make to impress the neighbors. And then we cut to, a little bit later on, in the kitchen is a hot mess, just full of dishes and eggs and stuff. And they try this batter, and
it's not good.
And they both realize right away that it's not good. And yet the justification is that in the same way that the city folk or the Californians may not like the fritters, Lilimae tries to convince Val that they will like this.
Yeah, because they have city taste.
Right.
There's a different taste buds.
The country folk think this mousse tastes terrible. The city folk are going to love it. To me, this was like okay, sure, Jan moment for Lilimae. But, it does make Valine laugh. And so in a way, that's kind of a start of
it seemed like she was softening up a little bit to mama.
Right. All right. Now that the mousse has been tested, it's time to...
The mousse has been tested.
It's time.
The best shot there is of Sid after he tastes the mousse. And he is like...
Oh my gosh, we've all been there, right? Where we have to try something that someone's made and it's not good, and you have to pretend that you like it, or maybe if you get a gift sometime and it's like so wrong for you, but you have to feign that, you enjoy it. So this whole first part of this scene at the Ewing house is everybody reacting to this terrible mousse that Lilimae thought the Californians would enjoy.
And I think Sid said to Gary something like, "What are you eating?"
Right.
And then he tells him to go to the kitchen to get one of the fritters.
Right. And he says, but do it secretly. Don't let anybody catch on. And I love it because as he goes to the kitchen, the hallway bathroom door opens up and it's Richard, and he's thrown the pudding or the mousse out into the toilet or the trash or something. And he says to me like, oh, yeah, that was the best pudding I've had since the
army. Since the army. I was like, okay.
Oh, it's classic Richard once again. And I just love the fact that he clearly had flushed it down the toilet.
I mean, we've all done that when we were kids. So why wouldn't you do it when you're an adult?
Right. Whether it's Brussels sprouts or
peas. I would do peas. I would take and put them in my cheek.
Yeah.
And then say, can I be excused? And then go to the bathroom, like, spit it out in the toilet and flush it.
So we follow kind of Richard, and he goes around the living room and he joins up with Kenny, Lilimae, and Ginger. And I don't know if you noticed, it's very subtle, but he immediately puts his arm around Ginger, and Ginger looks at him like, okay. But of course, there's already deep in conversation, so there's not much mention of it. But naturally, of course, I mean, are we surprised that Lilimae is going to ask the local record producer about the music scene in Los Angeles? No, we are not surprised.
I was waiting for it. I waited for it.
And of course, he says something like, oh, yeah. The music business is all about Nashville and Los Angeles. And then...
then Ginger starts repeating the lie that Lilimae told her that, she worked with the Carters.
She sang with the Carters. I love this because Kenny says, oh, I sang with the Carters too.
Right, he sang with the Carters. Then I'm like, oh, she's going to be caught in a lie.
Right, but then he says that basically at any Carter family concert that Mother Maybelle would print out the lyrics and give it to everybody in the audience so that they could all sing along. Obviously, she may have been caught out in a lie maybe, but also she is celebrating this family that she obviously looks up to and appreciates. I think Ginger maybe sings a line of the song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And I just want to stop you for a moment here with this song because I don't understand it. Will the circle be unbroken?
Or will it be broken?
Or will it be broken, right? It's like there's that Toni Braxton song called Unbreak My Heart, right? I get that part. Unbreak my heart, meaning put it back together. So will the circle be unbroken, meaning will the circle be put
broken
together?
Sounds like an old philosophy class.
I'm so confused.
Is it not true?
Is it not true? I think Lilimae does say, though, that the song is about generations, which, is why the song title is also the episode title, and it totally fits, not only in terms of, say, the Carter family singing in generations, but also in the generational bond between mother and daughter and, Lucy as well. Because if you think about it, Lucy and Valine did not spend Lucy's childhood together.
No.
Just like Valine didn't spend her childhood with her mama. So it's interesting.
Did you do any deep diving into that song too? Because I did look it up to just kind of see. I wasn't familiar with the song.
It is a Christian hymn.
Yeah, it's apparently from 1907 or something.
Yeah, and it was popularized by the Carter family.
The thing I read...
Mother Maybelle, she did play an auto harp. I mean, among other instruments.
Okay.
So
what I thought was interesting was that it was public domain.
Yes.
So you know that they didn't have to pay for that.
Right.
I'm not familiar with it. I'm not really a... hymn
aficionado.
I'm not a hymn aficionado. Yeah. I don't know my hymns. I'm so sorry.
All right. So Lilimae is into hymns, and she thinks it's a good idea if everybody at the little party get together there sing the song. So she asks Valine to go get a pen and paper so she can write out the lyrics for everybody. And Valine's like, this is why you want the piece of paper and the pen? I don't think this is a good idea. But then Karen sort of says, oh, no, don't worry, Valine. It'll be fun. Let's do it.
And then meanwhile, Sid brings Karen one of the fritters.
Right.
She says, what's that? He said, just taste it.
Yeah, he's like slipping it to her surreptitiously. I love that. So then we go back over, though, to Valine and Lilimae. And Lilimae is writing the lyrics and she's passing them out. And again, this is where, to me, Julie Harris was such a pro because she's able to do all this action and also deliver these lines, which were really great. She says something like, "Oh, the family never appreciated me. They never understood that I had a God-given talent, and those with God-given talents need to use them in service of others." So she says that, her singing all the time and her running off to these engagements and going on tour, it was all for Val. And Valian's like, "What are you talking about? You are so self-centered. You don't understand at all what I had to deal with because you were running off all the time." This causes Lilimae to get into this whole backstory about Jeremiah, her husband, who I guess was much older than her. And then you find out, I don't know if it is kind of...
she said something like, "Oh, he was put off by my spirit." So obviously
her fiery spirit.
They had a rocky marriage.
But apparently, it was alluded to that maybe Valine was a surprise baby. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that
exactly
part.
what the line was, but I think that was inferred. So once she was born, then suddenly... Lilimae felt squeezed out from the family because Jeremiah really loved Valine. But ultimately, that's not what was squeezed out. No. She felt her singing career was squeezed out in this situation now that Valine was born, right?
Yeah.
Valine is so upset. She can't understand why is Lilimae talking about all this stuff right now. And Lilimae can't understand why Valine doesn't appreciate all the sacrifices that she supposedly made. So Valine leaves the room and she goes in the kitchen once again. And then immediately she goes into this flashback. And I don't know, you tell me, do you think that this was like a repressed memory that finally comes out? That's what I couldn't quite figure out.
Yeah, we see some of the scene, what we saw before. But
in the nightmare.
The nightmare.
And now we see it with words.
We see it with words. And then it becomes clear that Lilimae is asked for help by Valine.
Rushing up to the cabin. She's got the baby in her arms.
She's got the baby in her
arms.
Someone's
chasing Valine. And there's Lilimae wearing her nightgown, or not a nightgown, but a robe, which to me inferred that maybe she had been having a dalliance with this manager, right?
She said something like, "I can't help you. The manager is inside."
Yeah, we're getting ready to go on tour.
And if he finds out I'm a grandma, it's, that'll be the end of her possible career.
And that really is low.
Obviously, she's all about appearances.
Right. She says, "Oh, it's quiet as snow out there. There's no one chasing you." And she shoos her off. So then Valine turns away, and immediately she's ambushed by these two guys.
I think the difference in the second scene, too, this one is we see the car, right? It's
right.
Like we see like a Lincoln town car.
Well,
obviously they're wealthy.
We see them take the baby
yeah.
and then kind of push Valine down. And then Valine gets up in this version and chases them across this bridge. But it is too late because they've gone into the car and taken the baby away. And then Valine is left to scream, "Lucy, Lucy." She's like standing in a swamp or something.
Cut to Valine screaming, "Mama!"
Yeah, she screams so loud that everybody in the party kind of files into the kitchen. There's Lilimae, there's Karen, there's Sid, there's Laura. And Valine just finally lets it all out. She says, it wasn't the singing. It wasn't the leaving. It was the fact that Lilimae had turned her and Lucy away in her time of need. And she basically screams,
"I hate you. I've lost her forever."
Right. And she's just crying in tears and completely distraught. And I have to say, I started tearing up here as well. This trauma was so palpable in this moment. And again, that's why I say maybe this was a memory that had been kind of suppressed and finally was able to come out. And it really is heartbreaking if you think about it, because what happens to Valine a couple years down the line?
Well, we shouldn't do those spoilers, right? But we know.
But the fact of the matter is, this trauma from this experience sets her up for having a very shaky connection with her mental health.
Poor Val.
But it's, this is why it makes sense, right? You really can see it in this episode. And there's Gary trying to hold her and hug her. And we do cut to Lilimae, a shot of her, and there is a single tear coming down her face. And it's high drama in an episode where perhaps there's other elements that are a little campy. This was definitely the moment of intensity.
Reckoning. So then we cut to Gary in the kitchen with Val, and obviously everybody has left the party.
Valine sort of apologizes for blowing up, and
he kind of mentions, "Oh, I didn't really understand before what happened." So now he's
that's why I say maybe it was a repressed memory that maybe Valine didn't have all the details until just then in that moment and was able to finally say why she doesn't trust her mother and, well, hates her in that moment. Valine does say she knows she needs to apologize, but she just needs a minute.
Yeah, and I think she goes upstairs. And then we cut to the next scene.
Right, so over at the Fairgate house, we have sort of the aftermath of the party over there. Diana walks in, or she comes downstairs, and she says to Karen, "Oh, did you have a good time?" And she sits down next to Karen, and you can see already that Diana is aware of the tension that's going on with the Ewings, with Lilimae and Valine, and she says something like, "Oh, I never want our relationship to be like that." Karen says, "Oh, well, I don't think it ever will, because even though we fight, we talk things through right away and kind of solve the problem."
That's what you think. I kept thinking, oh, here we go. Foreshadow to a later
Before
episode.
we foreshadow, let's flash back again.
Let's
because
flash
that's
back
what this
again.
episode does
Yes,
best.
there's so many. I don't think, how many flashbacks were there?
So we flash back now to Karen, again, thinking of her own mother, and we finally see her in this scene. It's kind of a continuation of the same thing, basically. It's her mother accepting the fact that Karen is now going to marry Sid, and we see the mother, and she's very, dowdy, in my opinion, and she's filmed in such a way, again, that reminded me of these old greeting cards. It's very kind of gauzy and just...
Now, I know she did get a credit, the actress
Yeah.
playing the mother, and I looked her up. Did you kind of
I didn't really look her up. I would say that the name did sound familiar to me, but...
yeah, she had a lot of credits to her name, and there were
she looks
certain...
kind of like Ann B. Davis a little bit.
Yeah.
You're looking at a screenshot right
yeah,
now.
she's definitely a popular actress. I wrote down that name, but I don't have it in front of me.
So then Karen is so inspired by this moment, where she remembers her and her mother actually connecting, that she decides, well, now's a good time to call her. So she calls her on the phone. And I don't know, is this the last time we ever hear of...
I'm not sure, but I thought that was a sweet moment.
Yeah.
She said, I just wanted to say hello.
Yeah. I will say that so far, watching 5 episodes of this show, that, Michelle Lee as Karen definitely is the glue. I mean, she's in every episode, and she's always kind of like keeping it centered. And I appreciate her.
She is the only character that is in every single episode. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. All 344 episodes. All right, back over to the Ewing house. Valine is going to confront Lilimae about the earlier outburst in the kitchen, and she does apologize for shaming her in front of the others. And Lilimae tries to explain, but Valine shares her hurt here, and also the ramifications and the real-life consequences that Lilimae's actions and selfishness and her pipe dreams, how they affected, 2 people's lives, right? Valine and Lucy, right? Valine says that several years later that she tried to get Lucy back, and she was almost killed. And, this is all information.
Yeah, and Lilimae had no idea
Right.
that any of this stuff had happened.
It's nice that they're finally talking, and that they can get to the core of what's really going on here. And we hope that their relationship will be repaired. But then, Lilimae kind of just goes right back into these old patterns. She says she has no money,
No place to go.
no kin, no work.
Nothing
and-
but you, Valine.
Right. And then Valine, feeling probably overwhelmed in that moment.
I thought at that
Just
moment,
leaves.
I just thought, okay, here goes that honeymoon, Gary and Val.
Yeah.
Mama's coming to live with
yeah.
you. Good luck.
So then we cut to downstairs, and Gary might be massaging Valine or something like that. Like, she's so exasperated. And Lilimae finally comes down, and she says that she's going to leave, right, the next day?
Yeah.
Obviously, Valine and Gary had talked. And so Valine says Gary is going to go to the bank tomorrow and get you some money.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to find you some money.
Right. Which is crazy. And I didn't catch it. Did her eyes light up in that moment? Maybe. I don't know. But what was interesting is they still kind of get into this tension here about the past. And Lilimae tries to convince Valine that if she had become a star, if she had become famous, then maybe Valine
would have
be so
accept-
hurt.
Right. She would have accepted her. They would have loved the fact that she
Right.
was a
Yeah.
celebrity or bringing in money or
And
whatever.
you can see on Valine's face that that is not the case.
Yeah.
She did not want her to be a star. She just wanted her to be a mother.
She just wanted a mother.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Don't go chasing.
You can't sing it or else we won't get monetized.
Okay, let's go.
It's nighttime on Seaview Circle, and now we're seeing an exterior shot of the Kenny and Ginger household, and Ginger looking just so angelic, looking out the window.
And maybe they're finally giving her a little bit more screen time, because I keep thinking that's kind of my
she really has not had much.
My critique so far of the first 5 episodes is that we just don't get so much Ginger and Kenny. They're like, their storyline seems a lot smaller in general, at least at this point.
Absolutely. So we see Ginger, and it's another flashback. She is flashbacking to a memory of her mother, and I guess there was some time in Ginger's life where she was pregnant, and her mother
she must have been a teenager,
pushed her to terminate the pregnancy, and I guess that is not what Ginger ultimately wanted. So,
and we get a little foreboding too, because she's trying to wake Kenny up, and he's not really waking up.
She says, Kenny, I really want to have a baby. And he is just out to lunch, sleeping. But did you notice what Ginger is wearing in this scene?
No, I did not.
She is wearing one of those football jersey nightgowns.
Oh, yes. I think it was number 8. I did see that.
And it was just like, Janet on Three's Company. Or Jo Beth Williams' character in Poltergeist. I think she is also wearing one of these.
Yep.
And it's just, that was the vibe.
My sister had one of those.
That was the style back then.
My sister had a yellow one.
Okay.
I remember.
Do you remember when we were the cast of Three's Company for a Halloween one year, and I was Janet? And
yes, I found one of those.
I had to wear that.
You. I don't remember what number was on it, though, but anyway.
Across the way at the Ewings, Gary and Val are also in bed. They're trying to sleep because Lilimae is singing again.
They keep hearing music off in the distance. This time, it's a different song, I think.
Yes, because finally she's singing
Little Maggie.
Yes, and it draws Valine in, and she sees the doll, right?
Yes.
So she kneels down at her mother's lap and listens to her mother singing this song that meant so much to her as a child. It's a very
endearing moment. It's a moment of healing.
It's a moment of healing, and it's a moment of a little bit of redemption for Lilimae. In her posturing here, I think that Valine is meant to appear more childlike again, and that sort of carries over into the next scene, where she has her hair in these pigtails.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And she just looks like a young girl. And I will say this is something that, we just talked about the Three's Company Janet nightie, which also Jo Beth Williams kind of wears in Poltergeist. And there are these things that when you're watching the show in the real time, you don't think of them. But when you watch it decades later, you see these style clues that cross over. I don't know if you noticed in an earlier scene with Joan Van Ark, her makeup just really felt to me like Linda Carter's in Wonder Woman. It was just so that same
I noticed
style.
That too. Yeah.
And here we have, this same kind of nightshirt being carried across multiple different characters and different things. And we see this hairstyle, which is like Chrissy from Three's Company.
Well, I mean, they were following trends. It's just trends.
Exactly. But at the time, you don't really think of it. You think, oh, Chrissy's the one with that hairdo. Right? Chris is the only one.
Well, I guess from working on productions that anybody who's doing hair and makeup, they're going to be current.
Yeah.
So that will reflect what's going on in the world.
It made me think of later on in this series too, when we watched it the last time, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, we watched all the Paige Matheson looks, and we kept thinking, oh, that's so Madonna era, this Madonna. Like that was the vibe at the time. Whereas if you were watching it, you didn't pick up on that, but now you can look back on it and say, oh yeah, that's where they were getting their kind of style cues. All right, so Gary is going to leave for work, and he's like, are you going to be okay? And Valian's like, yeah. At this point, I think it's good because we can finally start from scratch.
Yes.
So he leaves, and then we hear upstairs Lilimae asking Valine if she can use the phone. And Valine says, of course. And then she goes over to, the side table, and she sees the lyrics from the night before that Lilimae had written down for the song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And here we are left to question.
That's the big question.
Will the circle finally be unbroken?
No. The circle will remain broken. Because then Lilimae asks Valine to come upstairs for a minute. And when we go upstairs, we see that Lilimae is packing her bags.
She is back to her old tricks.
Yes. She said, I've got a press demo in Nashville.
Yeah, and she just spoke to this guy moments ago, and he wants her to come out to Nashville to record a demo, so she's got to go.
And I think she said something like, I feel it.
Yeah, this is going to be it. This is
going to be the big
time.
one.
I am going to make it this time. This time it's going to be different.
This time I'm going to make it.
This time I'm going to make it. But here's the thing. She definitely puts in there, oh, yeah, you can just run and call Gary and have him give me that money, right?
Oh, yeah, she mentions the money.
And you can just see the look on Valian's face like, here we go.
We're back to the same old tricks again.
And, in a way, it's almost like she's resolved their differences in her own head. Like, she knows that this is who her mother is, and her mother cannot change her stripes, like you said earlier. So
and
it is what it is.
She does leave it open because she says, I'll be back and I'll do real good and I'll come back a star.
Yeah.
So
you can just see that look.
She's
on
coming
her
face.
back. She is so excited and energetic about this. And again, it just shows what a pro Julie Harris is, because she shows this conviction in this character, right? She really does think this time it's going to be different at whatever advanced age she is now. It's a great scene. We sort of end the episode where it began with a taxi cab outside of the Ewing home, and Valine says goodbye to Lilimae, and there is definitely some sadness, I think, there in Lilimae's face, and there's certainly sadness in Valine's. She says, bye, Mama, and it's so sad because they haven't had a relationship, and here they've had a little bit of connection, and she's leaving again.
And she tells her, take care of that handsome husband, sweet pea. That's the second time she said sweet pea.
So we have a really quick scene there at the end where Valine goes into the guest room of her house and she picks up that childhood doll, little Maggie, from the bed, and she starts singing this song to herself. And I have to say, I don't know about you, but to me it just felt a little off, a little eerie. Like, again, like these were the seeds for all the trauma that we're going to see this character deal with.
And she was crying. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Again,
it was tough.
The circle will remain broken, at least for now.
At least for now. Seeing this episode and sort of taking a deeper dive into it, it makes what happens later on make so much more sense. I think we often look at this character and think, oh, God, she's crazy. But there's a reason why she reacts to the things the way she does. There's a reason why she eventually has like a psychotic break. It's because she has dealt with so much trauma, way more than the normal person.
Poor Val. You know what I always like about Knots Landing, and they did it this episode too, is that last scene. It's, a freeze frame of her face as she's crying. And then the country music theme starts, which was a good added bonus.
That was the song, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, just an instrumental version playing there.
But used as the titles, end titles.
Right. So what did you think about the episode in general? Like, what did you think about how it fits in with Knots Landing as a whole? I mean, I think we kind of discussed it, right? About how it definitely is the seeds of Val's
we
trauma.
needed to see that to understand Val's character more. Having Lilimae add some spice and some comedy, and that in the future, it's just multiple storylines that come from that.
This definitely creates so much space for drama in the future, and I think that the way to do that, a good way to do it, they did here. They created a really palpable, dramatic moment that is revealed in the course of this episode. So I think that's a really, really good way to take the show to another level.
Yeah, and they planted those seeds early, which is pretty smart because obviously they had 14 seasons to work with. They didn't know that at the beginning, but to think about where you can, set the storyline for the future early on is a really great thing. So David Jacobs.
Good job.
Good job.
He wrote that episode all by himself. All right, so filming locations, there weren't really any.
Not really in this one.
I would say that all the stuff that was the Tennessee, backwoods, I'm sure that was filmed in a studio.
I thought it was backlot.
Yeah, definitely backlot. I
was pretty sure it was a backlot.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. There weren't any other scenes other than the cul-de-sac. Now, how about the best scene? What did you think was the best scene for you?
My best scene was, I love comedy, so I loved the whole scene with the moose and the people tasting it. I just thought that was really funny. It was some light relief to a serious episode that had a lot of drama in it.
I agree, and I do think that it has a good arc to it, right? Because it starts with all that comedy, but it ends with the highest drama of the whole episode, which is Valine remembering those memories in the kitchen and blowing up at her mother. So it was very, very nice from beginning to end, and everybody is involved. Now, I have one more question for you, and I forgot it when we were talking about it in the scene. Do you think that Lilimae knew all along that she had this demo recording coming up? And like that was really the reason why she came to town?
I think probably you're right there.
Because the timing was really fast there. You notice?
I think she probably had something set up.
Yeah.
And maybe she was just
literally
waiting for
it's almost as if she
needed the money.
Testing the waters, right, to see how the relationship, how solid it was. And when she realized that it was okay, like they had kind of worked through their issues, then she's like, oh, now's the time I can reveal this, that I have this demo and I need this money.
Yeah, because she said she had no money. So how is she getting to Nashville unless they gave her the cash?
Right, right.
So
I don't know, Lilimae.
I wish we could we interview David Jacobs and ask him. So
do you remember
what were you thinking?
Do you remember when Lilimae returns? I really don't know.
I don't really remember, but I know that when she does, she's there for
she's
quite a few episodes.
An official cast member for at least 4 seasons, I would imagine.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think that what I read on the IMDb is like 135 episodes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So she's there for quite a long time.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. I love her. I've seen on many of the social media groups of Knots Landing now that people are kind of streaming all the episodes. There's
shout out to Knots Landing Chronicles.
Yes.
Thank you for supporting us.
Thank you for supporting us. There's a lot of people that don't like Lilimae though, and I always was very fond of her. So,
I kind of agree with you.
I know she's a pain in the butt.
I think this is something that I'm learning in these rewatches is that a lot of the characters that I used to maybe think were problematic, as I get older, I understand them more. I understand where they're coming from, because we've all had more life experiences. I think we said this in a previous episode.
And I think also when you look at the way that it is a TV show, right? And something that is written in such a manner.
Right.
These characters are very useful in all the plot development.
Exactly.
So you need them.
The needlers.
You need the good and the bad.
Yes.
It just keeps the
Otherwise
show going.
Boring.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody was likable, we'd be bored out of our minds. Can you imagine if Abby was nice all the time and just a goody-goody?
Right. Can you
imagine
be so boring. If Valine had just made the fritters and everybody enjoyed the fritters at the party? Then we'd never have all those great moments of the people being disgusted by the moose.
No crying, no screaming baby.
All right, my friends, and now it's that time. We're coming in for a landing on this episode to get right down to the Lotus Point, our gauge of how lowbrow or highbrow a show, movie, or series ultimately is. So, Doug, what did you rate this episode, the 5th episode of Knots Landing, on the brow meter?
I have got to say, it's been consistently good. And, the last episode was very, very deep.
Yes.
This, I think, is kind of on the same level. I'm going to give it a 4.5 like I did last time. Out of 5. Okay. 1 out of 5, 4.5.
So, for me, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, actually. I'm going to say that this one was maybe a little campier in a way. And I know that's crazy because it's such a serious topic, ultimately. Like, the through line is very serious. But I think there was kind of like some shoddiness to the way that the flashbacks were filmed, specifically the whole Valine Lucy moment with the stealing of the baby. It just felt really rushed to me, those scenes. And so I'm going to give this a 2.5.
Oh my God, I can't believe you.
I know. Just because, okay, it's not that the topic is highbrow, but maybe the delivery is a little bit more lowbrow. And maybe the campiness comes from the way that Julie Harris plays the heart out of this character, right?
Well, see, that's what I really appreciated about it. I love her. So.
Yeah, but I mean, those moments when she's strumming on that auto harp, I mean, it's campy. It's camp. So to me,
camp.
It brings it down to
now we're gonna do this thing in the future too.
The way she wears the ribbon, right? The way she wears the ribbon in her hair all the time.
The next time we do the show, we're gonna bring out the
shot glass.
No, the cuss bank.
Oh.
And every time we say camp or campy, we're going to put a quarter in there and see how much money we get.
We're going to bring out a shot glass, and every time we say camp, we're going to take a shot.
We'll never get the show done.
Never. Okay, so we have some reminders here. We want you to subscribe to our podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Spotify. It is free to subscribe. But, it does so much for us, for the algorithm that helps other people find us so we can grow our audience. We'd really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
so rate us, like the episode, share it with friends.
Yes, please, please, please. And send us your comments as well. We'd love to hear what you thought about this episode and others that we've already covered. Now, Doug, what is coming up next?
Well, next on Seaview Circle, Lucy comes to visit Knott's Landing to see her parents, Valine and Gary. Lucy hopes that she will be happier with her parents, but due to past issues and Lucy's lifestyle in Dallas, things do not go quite as planned. So Seaview then, back on the sack.